Hey guys, I wanted to go through a hand I played with Alex, and talk about some takeaways. So to get started, it looks like we were about 110 effective. The exact stack depths don't matter a ton. It wasn't super deep. It was a little over 100. I had Jacks versus Ace 8 suited. I'm in the button. I opened 2.5. Alex 3 bets to 7.5. I think you can go a little bit bigger here. Typically, out of position in the small blind, you want to go to like 4x, between 4 and 5x, so like 10 big blinds, 11 big blinds, but not a huge deal. Yeah, Thomas gets out of the way. I 4 bet. I forget exactly how big I went, but it was kind of big versus this sizing. I think in theory I should probably be going 22 against like a 10x, maybe. Yeah, so if you go to 10 big blinds, I should be going to 22. I made a couple of deviations for reasons that I won't say, but yeah, I went a little bit bigger here. You make a call. I think this is probably the first mistake that you come across. Ace 8 suited with a 7.5 big blind open size is a fine 3 bet. Probably even with like a 10 big blind or 11 big blind 3 bet sizing is fine. But once I raise, this is going to be a mistake. You should probably be folding your Ace 10, calling like some Ace Jack, Ace Queen. But we go to a flop. You flop a flush draw. This is good for my range. Um, though we're going to see why that might not totally be the case uh, in a second. But like the way I'm going to talk about how I was thinking about this game and then see what the solver says and why I think that might not be totally correct. But yeah, so I decided to adapt a range bet strategy. On these boards, I'm going to just go like 25% pot, something like there, 30% pot. Again, I forget exactly what the sizes were, but I went 15 big blinds, which is, around between a quarter and a third pot. Um, and I'm doing this with range, so any 2 cards that I have here. In game, I was thinking that you shouldn't be developing a raising strategy, but turns out maybe you should be. But you make the call. I think that's fine. I'm probably not developing a raising strat on this board, but turns out solver does. Now, the Queen of Clubs comes, and this is a really big, like, this card should be screaming at you. This changes everything. Why is that? Well, you should have pocket queens. You should have flushes. And I should have some queens. I shouldn't have any flushes. Or I should have very few flushes. In practice, I'm going to have some ace jack, ace 10 of clubs. And yeah, but like uh, a lot of my flushes are going to be ace 5 of clubs. Like this 5 is bad. If this was a 4, I think it would actually be, it seems like it would be the same thing, but like this would actually be a really big difference. But then also I'm going to have a lot of ace king, ace queen, king queen suited, and this is blocking a ton of that. Um, okay, so anyways, you check. I think you can develop a lead here, and this is kind of my point. Is this is such a texture changing turn that I'm not going, like, why do you check here? Well, you check here. In theory, if you were to check, it's because you think I'm going to put money in, right? That's why typically strong hands uh, don't bet when you're the pre-flop caller on the flop, is because you anticipate a lot of continuation betting, which means that you don't have to put the money in. You can check raise me or check call and let me continue barreling and bluffing. In this case, I'm going to be slowing down a ton. I'm already going to be slowing down a lot on a blank turn because, I'm going to have a lot of hands like tens, jacks, queens that aren't going to want to continue to put money in because your range is so strong at this point after calling a 4 bet and then a C bet on the flop. When this comes and everything changes, you should now be taking the lead. And so I think this is a good spot where you could be either betting small, like 20 bigs, or you could be, that's quarter pot, or you could be going all in. I think either of those are valuable. Like 15, 20 bigs on the turn here would be fine, and then just shoving would also be great. Yeah, I'm checking here, and I'm probably checking a really big chunk of my range. The king comes here, and we can continue discussing this, but I don't necessarily hate the check. I am going to be having some king queen, or so yeah, I'm going to have some, sorry, king jack ace king. Obviously I'm going to have king queens, pocket kings, and etc. But I think those continue to bet a fair amount on the turn, my sets and stuff like that. So uh, I think you should probably be putting the money in here, but it's okay to trap at some frequency. You end up checking. I check. There's just no universe in which I'm putting any money in here. And yeah, I think you probably wanted to bet this at some point. And finding that opportunity to lead, it seems like kind of random. Like when am I supposed to lead? I thought I'm not supposed to lead. Well, when you have this extreme texture changing turn, that really gives you a lot of advantage. So let's go over to a preflop simulation. I want to look at this, just the kind of ideas preflop that are happening. So this is my button opening range. Jacks are a slam dunk open. And from the small blind, I gave you just the 7.5 sizing that you used in game, and you have a pretty clear open, or 3-bet rather. I think if we used a normal size and also kind of cleaned up my 4-bet sizing, you might start seeing ace-8 suited folding here, but I'm not totally sure. This is a thing I could check out, but I'm just feeling kind of lazy. But I don't think it's a huge mistake, even if you were to use regular sizes. But in this case, using your sizing, I think it's fine. Again, I would probably go a little bit bigger. You're out of position. You don't mind taking the pot down pre-flop. But yeah, big blind is folding quite a bit. So Thomas ended up folding, and I think that's probably correct. In theory, you're folding 93% of your range. And this is my 4-bet strategy in theory. Now I'm going to depart from this in practice. The first thing is I'm going to be 4-betting some like ace-5, I'm going to 4-bet some ace-4, ace-5 suited. I'm probably going to be 4-betting my aces quite a bit. So in theory, you should be calling these, especially in position. But yeah, and I'm probably 4-betting my jacks in full, though I know in theory I should be mixing. Yeah, I guess in theory I am mixing my jacks. And I don't know if I have quite this configuration of these really polar 4-bets, though I think I do have some of it because I've seen these configurations before in heads up. So anyway, I think that I probably have more aces here. I probably have more ace-king. I don't think I'm flatting my ace-king. So I do think I'm going to have a stronger range when I 4-bet. And when we see the call, here's another thing I really don't like. I don't think you're calling with aces. Maybe you are. I don't know. You might be calling with ace-5. Notice here in particular, your ace-8 should be folding. And this is a pretty big mistake to call here. It's almost 1.5 big blind mistake. And so, yeah, I would tweak this a little bit. We're going to see a sim where these are the normal ranges that we put in, and we're going to see like an output from the solver. But then I'm going to tweak it and show how that changes everything. So I'm going to go ahead and get this loaded up into Pio, and this should be pretty quick. So I'm going to copy, this is going to be my 4-bet range. I'm going to copy this here. Let's go ahead and bring up Pio. I'm going to put this into my in position range. And again, this is just exactly what the solver is saying. And then I'm going to copy your calling range here and put that into the out of position player. And so notice you have aces in full. You have some 5s. I don't think you have any 5s here in practice. I don't think that's, maybe you have a little bit, but I don't think so. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and build this. And let's solve. And this is a pretty 4-bet pot solve very fast. So, yep, we're solved. Let's go ahead and look at the browser. So I didn't give you any leads. So you're not allowed to lead on this board. Maybe in theory you would be able to, but I think that in a 4-bet pot on this kind of board, you should just be checking. So you check range. Now I used c-bet 25% range strategy. And here it doesn't like that with like my jacks, queens, 10s, and even my kings are checking back because we're blocking so much value. I don't think it's going to be a huge difference in like my jacks without a club. It's basically the same EV to check and bet. There's no difference. These are exactly the same EV. So the fact that it's mixing, it's not that big of a deal. So it's certainly not a mistake. And I think once I tweak a couple of things, we'll see that this ends up being a very different situation. But anyway, so I choose to bet, and we'll just go through the hand as normal. We don't have any ace-8, but we can look at what some other flush draws are doing. So like ace-4 suited is raising. I gave 2 raising sizes. I gave 20% and then an all-in percent, so which is like pot. And we're seeing that there's basically nobody's going all in here. There's a lot of small raises. And so I think a lot of your flush draws, like ace jack, ace queen, these are very strong ace high flush draws. So they have a good kicker and they're going to be good some frequency of the time. And so they're starting to call, they have showdown value. Whereas something like ace four suited, ace three suited, these are raising more. Though I guess ace three of clubs is, oh, it's a pair. That's right. So it has showdown value. Ace seven, I think this is probably the best example. This is raising pure because you just don't, it's not beating any of my ace high. So anyways, you end up opting to call, which I actually don't hate, even though the solver's telling us to raise, and we'll look into that more in a second. Now what's happening though is you should be developing some leads. So here you should be developing like 30% leads. And you could even be jamming at some frequency, like some king queen. King queen is jamming. It's strong but vulnerable. There's a lot of draws out there, and so it's just trying to see its showdown value. But yeah, I don't mind betting small here. I don't mind jamming. Yeah, whatever you want to do. It's kind of like you just have a lot of value here, and I think maybe it's worthwhile. Yeah, why don't we go ahead and look at the Range Explorer. So red is me, right? In this graph, red is in position. That's the button. And we just see that I have this really big equity advantage. And this is before the queen comes. Once the queen comes, right, now we see that red domination, like the top of your range is just really strong. Like, I don't know if you were able to remember what that looked like, but before red was just dominating the top of the graph, and especially the middle of the graph. And now these are going to be like a ton of my, aces, etc. Like ace king, top pair, top kicker, or whatnot. These are now very middle equity hands. These got demoted. I have a few hands that have like strong, aces with an ace of club is like pretty good, but I really don't have many flushes. And so, yeah, this is like such a fundamental difference. If we just go back, I'm going to go ahead and back off here real quick. Remember what this graph looked like. We're kind of tied up top here. I'm a little bit ahead, and then I just dominate this entire portion of the graph. And then once this queen comes, this is probably the best card in the deck for you. And this is why you're going to start seeing some leads. So let's go ahead and pop back over here. Your ace 10 clubs is checking. Your ace jack clubs is mixing. So it's, it's fine if you're checking here. Like, you don't have to bet all of your flush draws, but you should be thinking about developing a leading range, because you see that I'm checking 44% of my range back. And like, for instance, jacks is a slam dunk check. I do not want to be betting this. And that's the kind of hand that you want to put pressure under by leading small. Finally, the king comes on the river. I forget exactly the suit. Doesn't really matter. At this point, we've kind of deviated away from the original game, so it doesn't really matter, or what a good strategy is. Like, we've already made, I think, a couple of mistakes, but like, we can see that like your flushes probably just want to get the money in, right? If you do have a flush here, you probably want to be doing some betting here. Though it's not the end of the world if you do trap. So like, I don't think it's like a huge mistake to have checked ace 8 twice, though I think ace 8 is a really good, check raise candidate on the flop. If you are going to develop a check raising range, it's a good leading candidate on the turn, and it's a good betting candidate on the river. When you check, my jacks just check. There's no reason for me to bet them. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and tweak this. So this is the GTO sim. It doesn't hate your line. In theory, though, it really would prefer you to be betting on turn with your, your weak flush draw, or sorry, not your weak flush draw, your, yeah, well, I guess all your ace 7, I was thinking of your ace 7 of clubs, that all raised on the flop. So if you were going to develop a raising range, ace 8 would have been a really good candidate for it. But we're going to rerun this now, and I think we're going to see some very big differences. So I don't think you have any aces. This is your range, Alex. This is the small blind range. We're going to get rid of your sets here. And then a couple of other things. I think you probably are going to have some king queen. What else? What else? What else? You probably don't have any sixes. You probably have some sevens. I think you're probably going to have most of your eights. I don't think. I don't know if you're how much you're three betting these pre-flop, but um, yeah, I think you're probably going to have queens, jacks, tens, and full would be my guess. King jack. Yeah, this all looks pretty accurate. You're probably going to have some like ace jack off too. If I know, I don't think you're folding your ace queen at all. So you're going to have that pretty high. And then let's go ahead and give you, I'm just going to give you half a combo of ace eight, ace nine. And you probably have ace queen suited in full as well. Okay. So yeah, let's go ahead and run that. And then in position, I think I probably have more aces here. I'm going to be flatting a little bit, but I should have more aces. I don't think I'm calling my ace king at all. I think I'm raising. I think I'm four betting that, so I don't think I'm flatting that. And I am going to have some king queen suited. Let's say 50%. And I'm going to have like some ace five, ace four suited. And what else? What else? What else? Yeah, I shouldn't have a ton of that. I'm going to have like a little bit of king jack suited. I'm going to have some of these as well. Maybe closer to like 25%. Like, yeah, I'm going to have a little bit in here in my four betting range. So I think that's a pretty accurate representation of what I look like. Yeah. So let's go ahead and rerun this. I'm going to build tree. And we can run the sim. Should converge pretty quickly. Yep, done. Okay. So now you check range, again, because you don't have the option. And now I've changed a few things. So if we look at the, here, let me get rid of the old range explorer so we don't get confused. If we look here, now we see that my equity graph is just destroying yours because I got rid of some of your overpairs and I got rid of your sets. And I'm now betting range. I'm just betting small with range, and it probably would like me to go even smaller. You are still developing some raises, and I think it's because I have flush draws here that you want to put into a tough spot. Like you basically, like even though I'm calling with ace four of clubs, well, ace four of clubs is a combo draw, but like ace 10 of clubs, if we look at what my EV was with ace 10 of clubs before, I had like 461. Now I have 297. So you're eating up like 30%, 25% of my expected value with my club draws, which I now have a few of. So yeah, you are going to be, so these like king queen type hands, also they can put value, pressure on my pocket jacks and stuff like that. So you are going to be seeing some raises. Yeah, jacks, or you're getting folds from jacks, which isn't, you're getting calls from queens. You're getting calls from king five. Oh, that's two pair. King seven, you're getting calls from like king seven, king jack, king 10. So you do have some value targets. So I guess it does make sense to develop a leading range. When you do develop a leading range, ace eight should be in there, right? If you're going to be leading, or sorry, not leading, you should be developing a check raising range. Because you have enough king queen, king jack to do that. When you have a value range that you can raise, which again, in game, I'm probably just calling range. But when you are raising here, you should be, yeah, ace eight is going to be a good candidate. I think it would be fine if you just took out any option to raise here. I think that would be totally fine. I don't think you're only raising with 6% of your range, and the EV difference is tiny here. The difference between calling and raising is, yeah, almost non-existent. They're basically the same EVs. So I would simplify here because I do just have, like, again, if we look at the range explorer, yeah, red, which is me, that's the imposition player, is just such a strong range, right? Like I'm just so strong on this board. And so, yeah, it's not ridiculous for you to just be just calling range. So, yeah, let's say you call here. Actually, let's go ahead and just do that. I'm going to node lock this. And sorry, I know you're kind of coming along with me here while I do this. But let's lock all. Wait, actually, no, that's not what I want to do. I want to, let's go ahead and call this, yeah, maybe we can do this. I'm not sure exactly how, I want to select everything. I guess we can just select everything here and can we bring, yeah, okay, there we go. I want to take okay, so we're basically not raising anymore. Great, okay. Lock all. There's a little bit of raising here. Let's go ahead and bring that down. Yeah, okay, good enough. Let's go ahead and lock all, save and close. And I'm going to go ahead and rerun this with the new simulation, with the node locking. Okay, great. And you're not going to lose it, like any EV from this. So now when we see, so you check, I bet range, you're calling, and now we see the Queen of Clubs. And look at what's happened here. You are now betting range. You are leading with your entire range because this is such a good turn for you that once we tweaked a lot of those parameters to, I think, like get rid of some of your, I don't think you have aces there. I don't think you have fives. So you're not going to be raising as much. Once we get here, you can just lead your entire range. And in particular, ace eight just wants to blast, king queen, pocket queens, king jack, like everything you can just bet. And it's mixing between this smaller sizing, this 20% sizing, and going all in. Yeah, I think you can probably do either. Something, yeah, we won't go into the exact differences between them, but like, you know, two pair and sets don't mind going all in because if I do have like a single club card, like you're just denying a ton of equity. And then stuff like, you know, nutted hands like ace jack of clubs, ace 10 of clubs, doesn't mind going slower and really trying to get value out of hands like jacks because they're so robust. So anyway, when you do check here, which you shouldn't do ever, but when you check, yeah, I'm betting a little bit, but I'm betting like, you know, 10% of my range. I might actually just be checking range in practice. In practice, I'm typically checking here with range. And yeah, then the king comes on the river. It doesn't really make sense to even look at this anymore. I mean, I think we figured out like what the, you know, what should be happening. You do have, the sim gives you only ace three here and it wants you to jam for some reason. But yeah, anyway, I think that's basically this hand in a nutshell. I think if there's a takeaway that we can have, it's identifying how texture changing that Queen of Clubs is with respect to our ranges. Actually, let me go back here. So remember what the, do I still have this up? Do I still have the Range Explorer here? So this is what the Range Explorer looks like after you call, right? So now your range has improved, but I'm still just like, I'm just destroying you, right? I'm just like, this entire top part of the graph is just me. I have all the best hands. Now, once the Queen of Clubs comes, look, your green is now just, you own this board. Like, this is your board. You've won this hand. Like, your range is just crushing mine. Mine is, we don't even intersect, right? Like, you have this is like just the best turn for you. Anyway, I think identifying that in game, thinking about what the ranges are, identifying that, and letting that be what guides your actions, rather than thinking about what your hand is, thinking about how the ranges are interacting, how the different, you know, how the turn comes and changes the board texture, and then letting that guide what each hand wants to do. And I think that's how you come across this leading with range. This might be a little bit dramatic, like maybe you can have some checks, but like I think at least identifying that this is a spot where you should be leading quite a bit will make this easier for you to navigate. Like I think that that's a thing that you should be identifying, that you should be developing some leads here. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope that helped. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions.